All right, we're good.
So I'm gonna dish it off to who again? I forget already.
Andrew's going to me, and then
Okay.
to Joe.
All right. And then okay. All right.
We're recording, so you can start whenever.
What question? If we feel like things are getting, because obviously we want to stay within that 25 minutes. Is there any way? Do we just all have to stay like
I'll
conscious of the
start
time?
it. I can start a timer.
Okay,
And
and
then,
then
Yeah.
and
obviously
then
in the chat too, nothing that won't show up. So maybe someone could just be like, "Hey, you're rambling," or just like wrap it up or something like that.
Yeah.
If
Should
things
we
start
say that
getting,
in the Facebook message chat or whatever?
isn't
No,
we
just
got the group chat right here?
there's a
Yeah.
if you click on the top left, there's a chat box.
Yep.
Okay.
all right,
Oh, in
I
the top
can
left.
do this stuff. So what do you want to keep it like to like 5 minutes a question, 5-6 minutes a question?
I'd say yeah.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
like basically a minute per person. Really, just don't go too far. I need to get the stats page up. Yeah, and I guess if it really gets off course and like we
We
need
can
to
edit.
stop it, like you can just say like, hey, let's stop right here, and then I'll just like cut and paste, and then we'll say, all right, 1, 2, 3, start again. All right.
Okay, that's
All
fine with me.
All right. So you guys ready?
Yep.
Yeah, go
Let's do
ahead.
it. I can just go whenever.
Yeah, it's been recording, so it's
All
not a
right.
big deal. Go
All
ahead.
right. Here we go. Welcome to the inaugural Cream City Cast. I'm John Turner. I'm joined by fellow Cream City Central writers, Joe, Andrew, and Dylan. How you doing, guys?
Doing pretty well. Doing pretty well.
Not bad.
We're recording this on October 25th, one day before the Mecca game against the Boston Celtics. 4 games in, and there is a ton to talk about. Let's get to it, guys. So, first things first, you can't talk about this season without talking about Giannis's historic start. He's putting up a monster stat line of 36, 10, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block. My first question to you guys is, where do you see Giannis in a top 5 debate? Many national writers are already pegging him in the top 5, so I'm going to dish it off to you guys to tell me where you're putting him.
Yeah,
Andrew?
well, I got Giannis number one. He's definitely been the clear-cut leader for MVP at this point in the season. I think everyone knows that, and it's no secret. Number 2, I have KD. 3, I have James Harden. 4, I have Russell Westbrook, and at number 5, I have Stephen Curry. You know, still very early, but like you said, Giannis' stat line. This is just absolutely historic what he's doing. He broke Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record for points through 4 games. And he's really doing this on both ends, and he's winning games for the Bucks. He's playing like an MVP, and you know it's great that the Bucks are getting this media attention, not only for Giannis, but you know as a team in the city as well. You know the Bucks are starting to be taken seriously around the NBA now. What do you think about all this chatter about Giannis and the Bucks, Dylan?
Well, I'd probably say like if he fits in he's number one in the MVP right now. There's no question. And Vegas actually changed their odds right after these 4 games, and he went to number one on the list. But I mean, if you're talking about if you're like 1 through 5 top players in the NBA, I would say you go LeBron first, KD second. I'd say Harden's third because I just think offensively he's unguardable, and so is and I put Giannis fourth, and then Westbrook 5. I think he's ahead of Westbrook though, just because Westbrook's not going to have like all these numbers and just crazy stats like he did last year. So I just think that, I mean, look at it. He's averaging, what did you say, 36.8 points a game. That's ridiculous. You haven't seen that since probably at least Kareem for the whole season. So it really just depends if he can do it every single game. And I mean, he's 22 years old, so it's not like I don't think he's going to get tired or anything like that, but the workload's definitely strong for him. Joe?
I'm a firm believer in the NBA stars don't shine until the second half, late in the season. I'm not going to make any crazy predictions that right now Giannis is the best player in the NBA. I'm not ready to dethrone LeBron, let alone KD or guys like Russ. So I'm putting him right at 5. I'm putting him right at number 5, and I got Kawhi right below him at 4, Russ 3, KD 2, and then of course LeBron. With that said, I'm not trying to downplay what he's done through these first games. It's been incredible. It's been fun. But I still have to pay my respect to the guys that have been in the league. I still have to pay my respect to guys like LeBron and KD who have been there and they've shown what they can do is sustainable. I worry about this is until that jumper comes around, you can game plan for what he's done. A good basketball coach will game plan for what he's been doing right now. And the Popoviches of the world will shut him down, need be, if he doesn't get that jumper, in my opinion. It's the early in the season. Teams are trying to find their own. And I think it's important to note that the NBA is starting about 12 days earlier than it normally would. So you could even count these as preseason games, in my opinion. A lot of guys are still – and a lot of guys aren't even playing yet. So I'm not on the hype train completely yet. I love him. I love him to death. But I'm not going to put him above those guys I named.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I think it is very early, and I also think that Giannis has a little extra edge this year from this, an obvious goal of his to win this MVP, and I think teams will adjust, like you said. In my opinion, for my top 5, I'm going to have LeBron at number 1, of course, KD at 2. I have Kawhi at 3 just because his defense is just so far above most people in the NBA right now. I have Giannis at 4, and then Steph Curry at 5. I think Steph's offense is just so efficient and so productive, and the spacing that he provides on offense, the gravity that he pulls to defenses, really puts him above the others. I'm going to transition to our second question, and aside from Giannis, the big question this year is what is going on with the center rotation. Through 4 games, we have Thon Maker at 16 minutes, Greg Monroe at 15.5, and John Henson at 15.5 too. So really, these centers are getting equal amount of playing time, and there's not much splitting them. I'm going to dish it to Andrew. What do you think about the center situation, and who do you think should be receiving the most minutes come the end of the season?
Well, the center situation, like years past with Jason Kidd, has been pretty fluid. This year, I think John Henson has done a really good job so far earlier in the season, and I certainly believe that he deserves more minutes than Greg Monroe. Greg Monroe really hasn't done much this season, and he's actually been a negative for the Bucks so far. And as for Thon Maker, he's still very young. He's raw. He's on his way. He still needs some seasoning, but the more Jason Kidd throws him into the fire, the better for his conditioning and all that. But he's still struggling with foul trouble. But at the center situation, I think Jason Kidd has done a pretty good job handling it so far this season. How about you, Joe? What do you think?
Me or Dylan? My bad.
Oh, Dylan.
Here. Let's stop it there, and then Andrew just say, Dylan, what do you think?
Okay, yeah.
Dylan, what do you think of that? The center rotation so far this year.
Well, if you think about it, I think the only reason, obviously, you want to get Thon experience and playing in games, but I think Greg Monroe has probably seen his last year in Milwaukee this season. Unfortunately, he just doesn't really fit what the team does. He's slow, doesn't really get back defensively. Yeah, he's a really good post presence, but when all said and done, John Henson and Thon Maker fit the Bucks model of what you want as a player. Long, athletic. Henson can't shoot, but Thon, if he can develop that three-point jump shot and actually hit it consistently, because he's only shooting 30% from 3 this year. It's not like, he hasn't taken a bunch of attempts from 3, and then Henson, he's shooting over 63% from the field. That's crazy stat. I know it's all close to the basket, but he usually takes a bunch of bad shots anyway, usually, as like last season. And then defensively, Monroe's a liability defensively. Henson can get those blocks. But what worries me a lot is that Thon, he's just really small. When they played against Boston, Al Horford was dominating him in the post. And when they played against Charlotte, Dwight Howard had 22 rebounds. Like, that's a problem. He needs to put on weight because if he doesn't, he can get bullied around by a lot of centers in this league. Joe?
Henson, he's not sustainable, and I don't like, toying with anything north of 20 minutes a game. I don't get it. He's had a decent start to the season, but by no means is he the center of the future. So I'd really like to see those minutes deplete quickly, and dish them off to guys like Maker. And I've always been a firm believer in Monroe, honestly. I think he's proven, and I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate, but he's kind of proven him in a guy that if you want him to go get a bucket, he's gone and gotten a bucket. His touchdown low is arguably one of the best in the NBA, and that's why I genuinely sympathize for him, because he's just a player in the wrong generation. If he was an 80s, 90s center, I think he'd be one of the best one of the best players in the league in terms of scoring wise down low, because that was the game down back then. So in that respect, I like him if he can accept his role as a 6 or 7 man. I don't know what the vibe is or how he feels about something like that. I don't know what that can do to a player long term if he believes he should be a starter, and in the locker room he doesn't feel like he's getting the minutes. If that becomes the case, then I want him gone. But if he can embrace that 12-6, 11-7 type of game night in and night out, until Maker's ready, I'm perfectly fine giving him the minutes now. But obviously, I'm also a believer that if this team's going to win down the stretch, it's probably not going to be with Monroe 2, 3, 4 years from now. It is going to be Maker. So playing devil's advocate to what I just said, if we're going to get to that point soon, maybe those minutes should go straight to Maker and not Monroe. That's where I'm at right now. No Henson, either Maker, Monroe. I'm not really too picky in that respect.
Got it. Yeah, Joe, you made some great points. I agree with you that Greg Monroe is, a proven bucket getter down low. He can get you a bucket when you need one. He runs best against bench units. He can really torch most bench centers. But like you said, he's a liability on defense and doesn't really jive with what the Bucks are trying to do. I mean, we've seen this time and again. The Bucks offense plays best when the defense is getting stops. And if the defense isn't getting stops, you're not getting transition buckets and you're not finding a rhythm on offense. And Monroe, when he's on the court, he gives an effort, but his physicals limit him to a degree, and there's only so much you can do. So I think Greg Monroe should be coming off the bench, probably should be earning a little bit more than 15 and a half minutes, but you can't really force him with that starting lineup just because he doesn't really jive well with them. Thon, on the other hand, provides the spacing that you really would like for Giannis. He's a ton of lanes for Giannis when he's out there. Against that Charlotte game, he pulled Dwight Howard away from the basket, and whenever Dwight wanted to come in to meet Giannis at the rim, Giannis was very adept at realizing Thon was on the perimeter, getting the ball to him, and we saw a couple big threes for Thon there. But the biggest problem with me for these center rotations so far is defensive rebounding. The Bucks have had the 6th worst defensive rebounding percentage in the NBA, and I think that has a lot to do with running out Greg Monroe, who's somewhat of a passive rebounder, and Thon Maker, who's just been getting bullied by these bigger centers. Granted, he has had to go up against bigger centers and Dwight Howard and Jusuf Nurkic, but it's not a lot he can do, and that's going to be an issue, which brings me to John Henson. And what John Henson has been able to do this year is what the Bucks really need out of their centers. He's been able to protect the rim. He's been an all-right rebounder, and he can catch lobs on offense, but he's not really going to give you too much on the offensive end. So I like the minutes that Kidd has given to Henson so far, but only because the other 2 centers have been dismal on the defensive rebounding end. So
if Henson can turn out to be the center of this team, then I think that'll just be I don't know what to make of it, because for someone to live through the Brandon Jennings and Monta Ellis era and still be on this team and then finally make it onto a winning team, and of all people, of all the discussions and everything, I just think it would be incredibly humorous if John Henson ended up being the center of this team.
I agree, but I also think that – go ahead.
Do you guys think that having the 3 separate centers, because it does give them a different thing, because if they are playing against a team like Charlotte, for example, they can use a bigger center if they need to. But if they're playing against, I don't know, Portland, Golden State, or whatever, a fast team, I think it just gives them a lot more options, because then you can play Henson or Thon Maker if you're playing more up and down. But if you do need to get into a half-court set against a team that does slow it down, I mean, Monroe can be effective in that at least, don't you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with that. For me, the big thing is you need Greg Monroe to come off the bench, because, let's say you put him into the starting lineup, then who's going to produce off the bench? There's no one there to produce. Right. So I think he's a very valuable piece to have coming off the bench. And, as for John Henson, I also think he's very valuable off the bench, but you have to start Thon Maker. Although
Yeah.
I don't think Thon Maker is necessarily ready for starters minutes, like, upper 20s, just because, he's so raw and pretty slim.
I
He's
agree.
pretty prone to getting bullied. You need to throw Thon out there every night just because of the floor spacing and the ability he has to shoot the ball. So, defenses have to respect his ability to shoot, which, like you guys said, opens up lanes for Giannis and creates stuff, more better looks for the offense.
That's what I'm wondering, because when you look at the roster in general and how they've been playing minutes, I'm wondering if they're playing to win games now or they're playing to win in a couple years. You know what I mean? Because obviously Teletovic, you owe him a lot of money. Monroe's on a big contract. But like I was just saying, like, for example, and I know it goes into what we're going to talk about later, but wouldn't you think that they'd want to play Sterling Brown more, Thon Maker, people that actually might like have a chance to contribute in like 2 or 3 years from now? Because I think you got to have realistic expectations of what you're going to get this season. I mean, I know you want to have a high playoff seed and you want to get there, but I think maybe at least early in the season, especially while Jabari's out, you got to get these guys minutes. And DJ Wilson, I mean, he's barely even played.
Yeah, I agree with that. But also, one, we don't know what's going on in practice. And I feel like that's one of the things that a lot of fans always forget about is that NBA players still – out of game team functions, it's a basketball team. If you're not performing well in practice, you're not that team player and you're not contributing to the team atmosphere well, you're not going to play, at least when you're young too. So, I always question young attitudes of kids coming out of college, seeing how they fit in. And, Jason Kidd's a no bullshit kind of guy. He's not going to necessarily turn over to these guys just because they had a decent college career.
No, for sure.
But, because kids' rotation with Giannis and Jabari and their preliminary years in the league were kind of funky to me too. And I think someone can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think what he's doing with Maker is really similar to Parker when Parker was first playing. Is he starts the game, he plays 8 minutes, 6, 7, 8 minutes, and then he disappears for the rest of the game, or he disappears until the third quarter. And that's one thing I just don't get. I don't get a strategy. I don't get the point of that. So I don't know if you guys can speak to that at all, if you've noticed that, or maybe I'm missing something.
Okay. Yeah. Joe, I agree with a lot of those points you said. And I'm rambling, so we're just gonna
just skip it. Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna edit this. So I just want to get you guys' input. It is kind of a good transition to the kids' minutes, but I definitely want to get the fourth question with our predictions just based off these 4 games. We're already at 15 minutes. Do we want to just do this one, prediction real quick, kind of wrap up?
Yeah.
Let's just do that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you finished it off. Okay. So I'm just gonna start with this takes us. Okay. This takes us into our last question. All right, guys. Based off these 4 games, give me your prediction for the Bucks record and what seed they'll finish at. Andrew, what do you think?
I certainly have high hopes for the Bucks this season. I had high hopes before the season even started. So right now I have them finishing off of what we've seen so far, 50-32, which should put them like, number 3 in the East. Giannis, he's going to win you a multitude of games. And, it's really to be determined. Who knows? Maybe they go out and do get Eric Bledsoe. That would also change the dynamic of this team. So still a lot of games to be played, but I am very high on the Milwaukee Bucks for the rest of the season. That is for sure. How about you, Dylan?
I have even a little higher expectations just because I think the East is just so bad at the bottom. And I think like when they beat Charlotte this year and they beat Portland, they really kind of have flipped that switch to make sure they beat the teams that they're like aren't as good as them. So I think they can finish 52-30. I just think that the East can really just warrant that many wins for them, because if they can beat up on those bad teams, they can hang with teams in the West with their length and their size. So I think that maybe a lofty expectation, but I think it's one that's definitely attainable.
I agree. I think 50-plus wins just might be a stretch this year. If we're talking a year from now, I'm 100% with you. I just think there's still a lot of question marks, and I think Vegas had them at 47.5. I want to say over on that, but I am a betting man, so I'm going under. I'd have to take the under on that. I think 46 wins is where I put them at this year. I think
Still
things will
improvement.
I think things will plateau. Oh, absolutely. And it's not to downplay, what they may accomplish this year, but I can just see things plateauing right around the All-Star break.
100%. Where what seed do you think that 47 puts her? 46 or 47 puts them at?
I think the 4. I think I don't like the Raptors this year.
Me neither.
I like Washington a lot. Boston,
Toss up.
it's a toss up.
It's up to Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, Cavs obviously, but I think this could be a discussion for another day. But I think if you see the Raptors drop into that 40 to 45 window, I think they blow it up.
Yeah. Well, in my Eastern Conference preview, I pegged the Bucks at over for the 47.5. And Giannis's start has me feeling good on that. But I mean, it's the Bucks. Every single year, they always seem to play down to their competition, and it's just so frustrating as a Bucks fan. And other than Giannis, there's probably more question marks with the rest of the team than there should be right now. So I'm still gonna go above 47.5. I'm gonna say 48. I want to say 49, but I'm gonna say 48 wins. I think it puts them around the 3 seed, but in the East, I mean, 4 games in, I cannot tell you at all what's going to happen in the East. So, 47 can put them at the 3, it could put them at the 2. I mean, you really just don't know. It's just this Eastern
So many
Conference
injuries.
so many injuries. It's a crapshoot at this point. But I'm hopeful, and from what I've seen this year, I mean, Giannis is just gonna have a beast of a year. So,
yeah, John, you and I were just talking. It's like until he gets under 30, I just don't consciously. I just can't conceive him not scoring 30. Like the last these games are just like it's the expectation that he will go out and get 34, 35 points. It's ridiculous.
Right, and it's always a quiet 34. It's you look up and you see 19 points in the first half, and you're like, where did that happen? But
you watch that Cavs game, and you would have thought he had 19 points that game.
Right, he's just like LeBron. He's just dominating the game. So
yeah, quiet start, but not really quiet.
Right?
Not really quiet at all.
No, it's hard. It's hard to be quiet when you're putting up a stat line like him.
Yeah. Anyone making it to the Mecca game, John? I know you are.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to the Mecca game.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know. I guess I think what we're gonna do from there is I'm just gonna cut that when we just kind of all shit our pants and stop talking. I'm gonna cut that, and then I'll just record my own thing. Just yada yada bullshit.
Because I mean, like, we're not like set to this one. Like, obviously, we haven't like tweeted out anything. So if we do like want to do it again, because I mean, like, I think it sounds good formal, but like I think like the best content is like when you're just kind of just talking with each other. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like, I mean, if you listen to like Part of My Take, I know we're not like trying to do that or get that audience, but like they're just kind of having a formal conversation. You kind of want to be personable more with the audience. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
But like still keep a structure of like points you want to hit throughout the thing.
Yeah.
So I'll just send it to you, and then you can give it a listen, and if you want to do it, use it. We can use it, and
send it to me, and then I'll make it. I'll mash it up and everything, and then I'll send it to you guys. It is our first one, so I'll just throw it in the group chat. If you guys don't like it, or if Al doesn't like it, we can always do it. But I thought this one pretty okay.
I thought the answers were pretty damn good. I think we sound smart. I listened to some shit on like I don't remember who it was, but someone just retweeted something. I think it might have been Bucks Lead podcast, and it was just atrocious. It was I don't mean to be a dick, but it was just like not good basketball talk.
Oh, all right. I'm gonna stop this because I gotta get going, but I'll send it to you guys.
I got
all right,
5 minutes ago.
See you guys later.
Peace.
Peace.